depending on which time zone you're in. Welcome to our weekly conversation about tax. So we do this every day, HEJ.tax. If it is that, some of you have indicated that you cannot stay for the entire thing, that's okay. It is being recorded as you will signal upon entry. And it will be made available on our website as well as on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, basically wherever you get your podcasts. This will be made available. It'll be saved and will be available. So it's probably going to be on about 23 or 24 platforms. So what that means is that since this video, the video as well as the audio is being recorded, if you do not want your image to appear, you would probably just need to keep your camera switched off. We invited those who would like to submit your questions ahead of time. Thank you for those who did submit questions. They were safely received. For those who have not, please feel free to type the questions in the box below. I'll be jumping across from platform to platform, and I will pick them up in the order in which they are received. Please bear in mind that we're having a general conversation about tax issues, and it is not meant to be advice. If it is you need advice that is specific to your situation, you would need to engage a professional who understands your situation inside out. We're having a general conversation about general principles. You can consider this education. You can even consider it entertainment if you like, but it is not meant to be actionable advice. So please keep that in mind. So without further ado, I turn you over to Mary. Mary, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Derren. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm very happy to be here with you. So today we will talk about taxes in general in Cyprus for companies and individuals, tax residency issues, and also incentives offered in Cyprus for expats. So if you allow me to share my screen and share my presentation.
Yes, you should be able to do it. Is it allowing you to?
Seems it doesn't. Let me try again.
Please do. All right.
Yeah. So I hope you can see the presentation well. So firstly, let me briefly introduce myself and also Royal Pine. I'm a qualified accountant and founder and director of Royal Pine, and I specialize in tax and VAT in Cyprus. Now, Royal Pine is a boutique advisory firm, which we offer a wide range of solutions to corporate clients, private clients, regulated entities, in a variety of areas: investment, financial, tax, legal, and corporate-related matters. So we can offer a variety of solutions, like if you want to expand your business, or if you want help with taxes, or HR support, assistance with banking, etc. And we are based in Cyprus and also in Greece. So now, first we touch upon tax residency for companies. So a company in Cyprus is considered to be a tax resident if it is managed and controlled in Cyprus. Now, in our law, we don't have a clear interpretation of the management and control. However, it is interpreted and can be determined if the effective management and control is exercised in Cyprus. And there are some rules we follow. Of course, the list is not exhaustive, but majority of the board of directors are residents of Cyprus. Directors are qualified enough and possess the skills to properly manage the company. Board meetings take place in Cyprus. Bank accounts are operated from Cyprus. Records are maintained in Cyprus. No general power of attorneys are granted, and the company maintains an office and employee, of course, enhances the substance in Cyprus. Additionally, we are expecting, effective from December 2022, we will have the incorporation rule we didn't have before in our residency rules, which means that a company which is incorporated in Cyprus, although management control may be exercised outside Cyprus, will be considered tax resident of Cyprus if it's not a resident elsewhere. So as to capture these entities as well. So as I said, this is effective, was voted in December 2021, but becomes effective December 2022. I just wanted to briefly mention the Anti-Tax Avoidance Directive we expect. Of course, it's expected in another 2 years or less. So this directive is mostly to combat the abuse of the best structure. So we may need to be aware that in view of this directive, which is coming into force, more enhanced substance may be required. So there are some tests to consider. And of course, there are some companies which are exempted from this directive, like listed companies, regulated financial undertakings, etc. Now, if we move on to the tax residency for individuals, in Cyprus, we have 2 rules. The standard one, which is a Cyprus individual is tax resident if he resides for more than 183 days, which is the same in most of the countries as opposed. And then we have one additional rule, the 60-day rules. So in this case, the individual should reside in Cyprus for at least 60 days per annum, but not reside in any other country for 183 days per annum. And provided that he is not a tax resident of another country, he carries out a business or he's employed or he's a director in a Cyprus tax resident company, and he maintains a permanent residence in Cyprus, either owned or rented. So for the 16-day rule, all of these conditions must be met in order to become tax resident under this rule, and of course enjoy the benefits that a Cyprus tax resident could have. Now, taxes in Cyprus, we have corporation tax, which we will have a look at it more detail next. Income tax, which is applicable for individuals. We have special defense contribution tax. We have capital gains tax, which is 20% on the gains from the disposal of immovable property in Cyprus. We have value-added tax in Cyprus, of course. The standard rate is 19%, and we get reduced rates of 9% for catering, accommodation, transportation, and 5% reduced rate for foodstuff, etc. We also have zero-rated activities under VAT. Then we have social insurance contributions for employers and employees exercising unemployment in Cyprus, which comes up to 12% for employers and 8.3% for employees. And then we have the national health system, which is a contribution of almost 3% for employment for employers and 2.65% for employees. And we have stamp duty as well, which is levied on documents. So as I said before, in this presentation, we will mainly focus on the corporation tax and income tax for individuals. Now, we said before that a tax resident company, if its management control is Cyprus, is a tax resident of Cyprus, and as such is taxed on income arising from sources both within and outside the Republic. Now, the corporation tax rate comes as low as 12.5% on worldwide income, which is actually one of the lowest corporate rates in the EU. So we have expenses incurred for the production of income are tax deductible, dividend income is fully exempt from tax, there are some conditions which is usually met, like dividends derived from the pay subsidiary company are not derived from passive income, and the corporate tax rate of the foreign jurisdiction is not substantially lower than ours. In this case, would be like 6.2, almost the half, let's say 6.25. Profits from a permanent establishment outside Cyprus are exempt from income tax. You can carry forward tax losses for a period of 5 years. We can also claim taxable losses of permanent establishment outside Cyprus and be offset against taxable profits arising in the Republic. However, when the permanent establishment generates profits which were previously claimed in the Republic as taxable losses, then they are added back to the taxable profits of the Cyprus company. We get group relief utilization only for current year tax losses. And this is also possible. You can get group relief for an EU subsidiary company. Now, group relief is offered for companies within the group, which is, for example, a holding company owns at least 75% of the share capital in the subsidiary companies. Now, generally, our income tax law doesn't provide for any withholding taxes. So that means, in effect, that dividends and interest are paid to non-resident free of withholding taxes, irrespective of any double tax treaty rates applicable at the time. We also have a notional interest deduction is applicable in case of new equities introduced into the business and used to finance assets generating taxable income. So in effect, this is captured as at 80% of the taxable profits on the interest deduction, and this is calculated using the reference rate of the 10-year government bond plus a margin of 5%. Now, in case of reorganization, this can be completely free from taxes in Cyprus, provided that reorganizations fall into the scope of the income tax law and are approved. Tax regime is neutral in respect of profit and losses arising from the foreign exchange rate fluctuations, whether realized or unrealized. Now, in case of companies that are trading in forex activity, which this becomes their trading activity, they can elect irrevocably not to tax the unrealized. The realized exchange difference gains are taxed normally under corporation tax because this is their trading activity, but they have the right to elect for the unrealized. So we mentioned before capital gains tax. So in case we dispose shares of a listed company that owns immovable property, then no capital gains tax is applicable. But it is applicable in case we sell shares in a private company that holds immovable property. So in that case, this would be taxed under capital gains tax. So Cyprus has a very broad and a wide network of double tax treaties, and we consistently broaden our network of double tax treaties. Now we have more than 65 countries across all continents. We can get tax credit for taxes paid abroad. We also, Cyprus tax authorities can also provide binding advanced tax ruling. So this is a very very important in case you want to properly structure or restructure your business. And lastly, Cyprus has adopted all the EU directives. So moving on, I just wanted to briefly mention some special tax regimes we have in Cyprus. So we have the tonnage tax regime, which is applicable for qualifying ship owning or qualifying ship charterers and ship managers. So in effect, they can elect to be exempt from corporation tax and maybe tax under tonnage tax. And this is actually very, very, very effective for shipping companies. And I think that is why we have so many international shipping companies in Cyprus. Then we have the IP regime, intellectual property tax regime, which is fully compliant with OECD and approved by the EU, which offers a tax deduction of 80% of the qualifying profits. So effectively, you get an effective tax rate of 2.5%. And then we have a regime about the filming industry, which provides an exception of 50% on the income arising on the production of films, etc., but is limited to the 35% of the cost, of the eligible cost. So this program is valid until the 31st of December 2023. Now, special defense contribution is another type of tax in Cyprus. However, is imposed only on certain types of income for Cyprus tax residents. So under SDC, we have the passive income, which is taxed at 30%. And we say passive interest income is the income that is not there in the ordinary course of the business of an entity, in which case that interest income is taxed under corporation tax at 12.5%. We have rental income, 3% on the 75% of the gross rental income, and dividend income, which is taxed under SDC and exempt from corporation tax at the rate of 17%. So SDC is for Cyprus tax resident, and it's important to note here that non-domicile individual, which I will explain later on, are exempt from SDC in Cyprus. So moving on to the income tax for individuals. Now the personal income tax rates for Cyprus individuals are, we have a tax-free income of 19,500, and then up to 28,000 is 20%, 36,000, 25%, up to 60 is 30%, and then over 60,000 is 35%. Now, here we have the income tax exceptions. So we mentioned this before, that dividend income and interest income are exempt from income tax, but subject to SDC for Cyprus tax residents. There is an income tax exception for overseas employment outside Cyprus to a non-resident employer, but has to be for more than 19 days in a year, and this is 100% exempt from income tax. Generally, profits arising from the disposal of securities are tax-free, as mentioned also at the corporate level. This is the same for the individuals. There is no tax on lump sum for the retirement or the repayment of life insurance or any approved provident fund schemes. There is contributions to social insurance, provident fund, etc. are tax allowable, however limited to the 20% of the taxable income. Pensions received from abroad are tax-free up to 3,420, and then over and above, you can have it taxed at 5%. You can elect actually to tax it under 5%. Otherwise, it can be taxed at the normal rates. We have no inheritance or gift taxes in Cyprus for individuals. Now, we have in Cyprus some incentives for attracting high net worth individuals in Cyprus. So individuals relocating to Cyprus can get a 50% exception from their salary as tax-exempt income for a period of 17 years, provided that their salary is greater than 55,000 per annum. And this is applicable for individuals who were not resident in the Republic for the last 10 years before commencement of employment. So these two provisions I mentioned below are effective from the 26th of July 22. Before which is still applicable for those individuals who are taking the benefit of them. It used to be 50% for employment income over 100,000, but we have recently lowered the salary to 55. And then you have another another deduction for employees relocating to Cyprus, but we don't get this high salary, so you can have 20% or 8,550, whichever is lower, from employment arising in Cyprus, but given you were not resident in Cyprus at least 3 years before the commencement of employment. So these are specifically for attracting people relocating in Cyprus. And of course, we have the NonDom regime, which I have briefly explained below and I have mentioned before. So in Cyprus, we have the NonDom status, which is in case of an individual who is not domiciled in Cyprus and becomes tax resident of Cyprus, can enjoy dividends, interest income, and rental income completely free of SDC in Cyprus. So in effect, given that dividend income and interest income for individuals are taxed under SDC, that means that non-DOM individuals would get to have their dividends and interest income in Cyprus free of any taxes. And of course, one can enjoy the NonDom regime for a maximum of 17 years. That was it. So I'm ready to get questions in case we have any.
All right, so we're ready to have some fun. That was amazing. Thank you so much for such a comprehensive overview. So maybe if you can close your screen now.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, great. Yeah, so for those who didn't get a chance to submit your ideas, your questions ahead of time, please feel free to type in the box below. In the meantime, I'll go through those who did submit in advance. This one, the first submission was, you and I went through it a bit before the call. It's pretty detailed. What I tried to do is divide it up into bite-sized pieces, so it's easier for us to discuss. So the first thing is, I assume this is a US person, and he or she is going to be based in Cyprus and running an LLC, a US LLC. So for those who may not be familiar, US LLCs are kind of a hybrid. It is not, it can be treated as a pass-through unless certain elections are made. So within various EU jurisdictions, we found that it can be more or less a test of facts and circumstances as to whether the country would treat it as a pass-through or as a US corporation. Generally speaking, do you have a sense for how Cyprus looks at US LLCs, Mary?
We also have the concept of either the concept of self-employed in Cyprus, which is doing an activity as a under a trading name or but we also have trusts which are also pass through, but I'm not sure I understand the question. So he has a pass-through LLC and he plans to relocate to Cyprus and become a Cyprus tax resident.
That's the sense that we're getting from this question. So I guess if I'm to hazard a guess, it really is, as it is in other European countries, a test of facts and circumstances. So if it is a single member LLC, so he's the only person employed by this, or he's created this LLC, and he's the only person working with this LLC, and he sits in Cyprus. I remember the first slide, like the very first slide that you had in your presentation, spoke about management and control. So in that case, management and control is being exercised in Cyprus. So the entire activity of this LLC would be taxable in Cyprus. Mary, am I correct in saying that?
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends on a variety of factors and how this is actually done in practice. But if he becomes a Cyprus tax resident, and we need to see what sources of income, how is the structure, is he indeed managing this LLC in Cyprus? If he from Cyprus, and is this considered a Cyprus instead of US? So, I mean, it's not a clear, straight answer because there are a lot of many factors to consider.
Absolutely, that's correct. And whoever sent the question, he or she did make that point that they're not able to get a clear answer, and the reason is because it is not something that is very clear, and there are lots of facts and circumstances and unique variables that need to be considered, as Mary has said, before we come to that conclusion. And that would apply if it is a pass-through LLC, or even if it is someone has made the election and it's an S Corp or a C Corp. Again, it really would be a test of facts and circumstances. So I guess to get an answer to that question, the best thing is for this person to reach out to Mary directly. And your contact details were there. And again, this is being recorded, so you can always rewind and play it over and make sure you get her contact details and reach out to her and have a consult and really get into that. So I'm just reading.
That would be the best.
Yeah, I'm just reading through. This person sent a pretty long email. So he or she, they're speaking about withholding taxes. Again, from a US point of view, if you are a US person, you're going to be taxed regardless. So it's not much of a discussion. The only conversation really is how they would like their relationship structured with the entity, but they will be subject to US taxes. If they are not a US person, and this person didn't specify, but if they're not a US person, then there should be, as long as there's no substance in the US, and if it's not a C Corp, and there is no substance in the US, there's no economic activity on US soil, then they should not be subject to US taxes, any income taxes. There may be sales or use tax, depending on whether it's a physical activity, a physical product they're selling, or whether it's software, because there are certain jurisdictions that would tax SaaS, software as a service. So in this case, generally speaking, I don't think the US is really an issue. That is really crystal clear. I mean, whether you're taxable or not depends on whether you have economic activity in the US, whether there's substance, and whether the person is a US person. So that is crystal clear. The challenge is understanding the Cypriot tax consequences. And for that, you need to talk about management control. We need to talk about the nature of the activity, and you need to reach out to Mary to get on that. So I'm sorry we couldn't be specific, but that's the nature of these things. Next question. Oh, I'll just jump below. Someone is asking, if I get pension from Canada, which already has 25% withholding, does the tax treaty, how does the tax treaty work? So someone is sitting in Cyprus, they are Canadian, and they are getting their Canadian pension, which is subject to 25% on the way out to arrive with them in Cyprus. Would they get any sort of concessions from the tax treaty, Mary?
Yeah, thank you, Marvin, for your question. Normally, as I mentioned before, we give tax credit in Cyprus for taxes paid abroad. But in this case, in case we tax the pension at the rate of 5%, but you have paid, let's say, for example, 25%, then the maximum credit you can get in Cyprus is up to 5%.
Okay, so there will be, right, okay, up to the 5%, gotcha. Because the treaty does reduce it to 5%. Okay, Marvin, I hope that answers your question. So, Marvin is asking whether it's a net zero. So no tax is due to Cyprus then?
To Cyprus, yes. In that
Okay.
case, assuming that there was a withholding in Canada of 25%.
Okay, great. So that's good news for you, Marvin. You're going to be able to enjoy Cyprus and receive your pension tax-free. All right. Marvin is happy. Next question. Banking, because, you know, incorporation is one thing, but banking is a challenge for everyone. How easy or how challenging is banking in Cyprus?
It's you put it nicely there. It is challenging as it is in every other jurisdiction. Cyprus is the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can offer solutions and we can assist with the opening of bank accounts with the various local banks and of course foreign banks we work with.
Okay, that's good to know. So following on from that, how are the banks in Cyprus open to crypto and online gambling concerns?
We are still trying in Cyprus to build a friendly environment around crypto. We have a recent regulation around crypto, and it's something that we want to pursue. As a jurisdiction in general, it's something we aim to promote, and we are working on the infrastructure.
Okay, so it's a work in progress. Understood. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Moving on, next question. Someone is asking about the golden visa options for Cyprus, but I think when we were discussing this earlier, you're saying that it's no longer available?
What I was saying is that the citizenship by the investment program we used to have, we don't offer anymore since November, I think, 2020.
Okay.
So we don't offer something in the sense of golden visa, but what we offer for third country nationals, we can offer, they can get the residence and work permit in Cyprus. There are various options. There is an immigration permit via investment, which is an investment requirement is at least 300,000 plus VAT, which is not substantial, and one can have a residential or a commercial property or shares in Cyprus with physical presence in Cyprus, or he can even buy units in an investment fund. So this is the immigration permit by investment. Then we have another scheme which one can get resident permit if he can get employed at a foreign interest company. Foreign interest company is a company the majority of which the shareholders are foreigners. Sorry. We also have the digital nomad visa, which is temporary. This one for 1 year. Also granted to non-EU individuals who can work remotely for an employer. And then we have the standard immigration permits.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so the investment option, that sounds attractive. And so if I'm an entrepreneur, I can set up a company in Cyprus and that company can sponsor my work permit, potentially.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. You can
Okay.
set up a company
Yeah.
as a foreign interest company, and also I didn't mention that under this scheme, it's a foreign interest company can employ up to 70% of the key personnel from non-EU countries.
Right.
So it's a great advantage for a foreign interest company if they want to employ key personnel from third countries as well.
That's
So
pretty
this is
attractive.
one of the, yeah, this is one of the main benefits, and we see a lot of tech companies
Right.
taking advantage of this in Cyprus. We
And
have seen a lot of tech companies relocating to Cyprus.
right. And this probably pairs well with the non-dom regime. So then your
Yeah,
income
yeah,
ask
yeah,
from outside of Cyprus will be free of taxes in Cyprus, and only
yes,
what arises within will
yeah.
be
In case
taxed.
you have dividends and interest income, yes.
That's great. And the digital nomad visa, how does that work? Is it specifically, is it like Barbados, for example, where so Barbados allows you to stay there for a year and you will not be tax resident. You would not trigger tax residence as per the Income Tax Act. Does Cyprus have any sort of tax benefits around the digital nomad visa?
I can say that this is also granted. It's temporary permit, as you
Okay.
said, of 1 year validity. But tax
Yeah.
residency is yes, is in Cyprus.
Okay. So you're going to be subject to taxes in Cyprus, as per the normal tax regime. Okay. Understood. Understood. Gotcha. And for that one, how does it work? Do you need to, demonstrate that your income is a certain minimum amount? You need to show bank statements, stuff like that?
Yeah, or you can have an employment contract,
Right.
or yeah, or any other source of evidence that you can show. You can prove your source of income.
Okay. Understood. And generally speaking, how many years of residency would one have uh, to have under, behind them in Cyprus before one can apply for citizenship?
What do you mean? I'm not sure I understand your question.
Sure, no problem. So for example, in Spain, if you're resident in Spain for 10 years, afterwards you can apply for citizenship. Or in Portugal, for after 6 years, you can apply for citizenship. So if someone is a resident as in not tax resident, but from an immigration point of view, they're resident in Cyprus, after how many years can they apply, or would they qualify for
Yeah.
citizenship?
I think what you're referring to in Cyprus is now for 7 years.
7 years, okay,
Yeah.
right. Gotcha. Yeah, 7 years. Gotcha. Understood. Understood. And just going through the list, right? What options? Right. So yes, we were talking about this before. So I've seen other tax schemes. This is with regards to using Cypriot companies in tax plan in planning structures. So for example, if someone is in Portugal under whatever scheme they may have there, for example, the NHR scheme, which is kind of like non-dom, but it has more holes in it. Anyway, so securities income, for example, from investment accounts in the US, it will be subject to 28%. Whereas if it is that they create a holding company in Cyprus for the US investments, it's received into Cyprus, and then from Cyprus they receive the dividends into Portugal, it would potentially be tax-free. So I mean, we've never advocated that, but I've seen other tax teams do it. But then I'm looking at your presentation earlier, and for those who didn't see it, this is being recorded, so you can just go back to have a look at it. It's pretty insightful. There were some anti-avoidance directives which may be coming into force already or soon enough. So in a structure like that, where there's no real substance in Cyprus, would it stand?
First, let me add a comment that traditionally holding structures and financing structures are very, very tax efficient in Cyprus. The structure you mentioned would work, assuming that the Cyprus company receives dividends.
Would receive capital gains. It'll receive capital gains from the US.
Which is a profit from disposal of securities.
Correct. You're absolutely correct.
Which is tax-free in Cyprus, and then we would pay this up as shareholders as dividends. So, we, from a Cyprus perspective, we don't have any withholding taxes. So this is quite tax efficient. Now, what we mentioned about anti-tax avoidance Directive 3, is passive income is one of the risks, let's say, in the test. And good thing is that we still have time to, let's say, tidy up our structures. For example, by setting up an office, having employees managing the accounts from Cyprus. So there are actually quite a few things we can do to strengthen our position in Cyprus.
So you're advocating creating real substance, economic substance in Cyprus for the structure to work.
And Derren, actually something that we see companies create enough, they are even transferring their headquarters in Cyprus. So we are moving into that direction.
Okay. Right. So in other words,
not, this is an international, it's not something that is happening only in Cyprus.
So then Cyprus is quite an attractive jurisdiction for like a family office type structure.
Yeah.
So that's a family
Absolutely.
office so being encouraged. Okay, that's good to know. All right, so I hope whoever asked that question understands. So it can work for now is a takeaway, but you'd want to look at creating real economic substance in Cyprus. So again, you'd probably want to have a conversation with Mary about taking that forward. Okay, so looking back down at the box here in Zoom, someone is saying, I'm an EU citizen already. After I get my yellow slip, does it have to be renewed? How do I prove my 60 days of residence since there's no border control for EU citizens?
Yeah, it's true that with no border control, we don't get stamped on the passport anymore. But an advice would be to save your travel tickets, boarding passes, be able to have bank statements showing your expenses incurred, let's say, in Cyprus. So you need to have some sort of evidence that you have spent 60 days in Cyprus.
Okay, so that I understand this. So this ties back to you can create your tax resident in Cyprus by spending 60 days. Is that?
You can be a Cyprus tax resident under the 16-day rule, but there are many conditions that need to exist altogether, provided you are not residing in another country for 183 days, and you are not a resident in another country, and you have an office, or like you are a director, or you are employed, and you have also a permanent residence. So the conditions for the 60-day rule are quite heavy, but
Okay, understood. Okay, I hope that answers his question. I'm just looking, so we touched on all the questions that were previously submitted, as well as a few that have been submitted today. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to type in the box below. I'm just gonna have a look what's going on Facebook, see if anybody's asking questions on Facebook. Nope. All right, so Does the yellow slip need renewal?
Yes, 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 it
Okay,
would need to be renewed.
and how would that be renewed?
For EU citizens, the process is it's very simple. It's very simple. It's simple and efficient. It's nothing. It's not like third country nationals.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Gotcha. Great. Okay. Well, I think that's it. Any more questions? I'm not seeing any more questions. Mary, thank you very much. The audience is satisfied. All of their questions have been answered, and they know how to reach you. Do you want to repeat it again, Mary? What's the best way? What are your locations? What's your URL? What's your
Thank you,
email?
Derren. Thank you, everybody, for being patient with us today. Hope you enjoyed. You can reach me on LinkedIn, or you can contact me through my email, which is rather difficult to say. So you can either find me on LinkedIn or check our website, royalpine.com.
Okay, royalpine.com. That is your gateway to
Royalpine.com.
Cyprus.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much, Mary. Again,
Thank you all.
we do these live streams every week. Have a look at HGD Tax to see what's coming up next time. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.